So hello everyone, this is Buncha again. So today I decided to show you AMCAS, my 2021-2022 AMCAS application. I had a lot of basically requests from you guys, so I decided to share real quick. So you can notice that some of the informations here are basically like covered. So those are my personal information. We don't need to know. So this is the first page. So basically, this is the second page. Is asking for income information. So yeah, you can see that I was mostly broke in college, where I mostly got financial aid, and so basically, financial aid was responsible for 50% of my aid. You can see my country of residence when I was a kid. Here you can see my disadvantage essay. Let me come back to it. I decided not to block it because it's an important aspect of me as an applicant. So you can see that I attended most part of my life was in Gabon, where I attended middle school. And then after that, I had a disrupted education because like the school was not able to pay the teachers. It was so crazy. Then I went to Cameroon and for like some high school. And then you can see that after that, I was basically moving all over the place, and I really didn't really have like parent figures in my life. The only parent figure that I had in my life died when I was a little bit younger, and that's going to be my personal statement. So that's pretty much it. And then after that, I came into the States, where I decided I basically like my whole pre-med world started when I came to the States. So I started doing a bunch of stuff that you guys are gonna see later. So here is again another page. So that's some information about my parents. We don't really need to know that. So here is basically what a lot of you will be dying to see. So what was his grade? I really hope that these grades are not going to be shocking a lot of you. I don't want it to be shocking a lot of you. I'm not trying this video to show off. I'm just trying this video to show a bulk of my experiences, what my AMCAS application looks like. So you really don't need to get all A's to get into medical school. Let me throw that out there before a lot of people start freaking out. So those were pretty much my grade. I started at Montgomery College from 2016 up to 2017. So I took most of the basic pre-med courses like general psychology. I took organic chemistry. I took calculus, principles of genetics, as you can see here. I also took a bunch of classes that didn't transfer for some reason. I guess they were like non-credit classes. They didn't transfer to University of Maryland, where I went next. So you can see that some of my classes had honors designation because I took some honors classes at Montgomery College. So here's just a continuation of most of the classes I took at Montgomery College. Yeah, that's pretty much it. So then I went to University of Maryland from 2018 to 2020. So pretty much this was still my age. So don't be surprised if you don't see any B's on this AMCAS transcript, because I didn't get any in college. Thanks to God. I was telling myself that if I got a B, I would never get into medical school. And well, I didn't get a B, and I still got into medical school. I didn't get a B, and I got into medical school. I guess maybe I spoke it into existence, but you definitely don't need to be like me, and getting a B is not going to deter you from getting into med school. I know friends that got in with a 3.98. I know friends that got in with a 3.5. So it's still possible. So here concludes my grades. So basically there are two schools on my transcript. It's Montgomery College. There's the University of Maryland, College Park. So at Montgomery College, I obtained my associate degree. I had no minor. My major was biological science, like most pre-meds. Here as well, among the University of Maryland, College Park, I had no minor, and my major was biological science, just like most pre-med. So yeah, nothing very surprising. So my cumulative undergraduate GPA for BCPM was 4.0, 89 hours. My all-order GPA was also 4.0, 48 hours. And not surprising, total was 4.0. I didn't take any pass or fail classes, even though I had the option during COVID. I was basically, my advisors were telling me that since I started at a community college, that I needed to show that I could handle a difficult academic rigor calendar. To be honest, it doesn't really matter. You can start at a community college as long as you keep doing well. You'll be fine. Like I had this fear that I was gonna be less competitive, but I don't think it mattered, and it certainly didn't, because I asked some of the admission officers if it really made a difference. It doesn't really, as long as you can show that you are able to perform at both the community college and at the university level. So I'm thankful that I finished my undergrad with the 4.0. That's definitely something that I can maybe tell my kids so that they keep working hard. So the MCAT, right? The MCAT was a beast. So as you can see here, I took the MCAT twice. The first time I took the MCAT, I had a 502. That was the summer of 2020 during COVID. And I definitely know that I didn't prepare well for the test. This where my score breakdown. The first time I took it, it was 126 in chemical, in basically chemical and physical foundations of biological living state. So basically the chemistry and physics. The critical reading 122 first time. Not very surprised. That was my weakest part on the whole exam. Biology was 127. Not very proud of this because I was pretty much very good at biology in undergrad, and I know I could do better. Second social was 137. I guess I didn't memorize enough. So then I took it again, and that was in May of the application cycle. And I actually forgot to mention that something pretty much important here. As you can see, I submitted my application on June 13th of 2021, and it got processed about a month after, July 14th. So about a month after. So that's the importance of submitting your application early. It takes about a month to get processed, so keep that in mind. I know a lot of people have submitted the application by now, and if you haven't, so assuming that you're submitting it today, which is June 21st, it should be processed by July 21st. So the second time I took the MCAT 507, much better score. So a 5-point increase, I was okay with that to apply. Same score in chemistry, physics. Was not very happy because I know I could do better. And for some reason in this section, I always ended up rushing on the exam. I had like 2 or 3 passages at 10 minutes of the time. So I was kind of slow on this section. So this score is not reflective of my knowledge, definitely because I was very slow on this section. It takes a lot of reading and calculations. Chemistry, the critical reading, again, 122. Very disappointed because I had studied a lot more for cows, but it didn't really make any difference here. And I'm really disappointed. But I was very happy with my biochem, basically 129. So I increased 2 points. And second search was a really big jump. So I increased 3 points on second search. So I was pretty happy with my score. So I did apply, and it ended up not being an handicap. So that's pretty much it about the MCAT score. So here is my experiences. So I feel like for me, what really got me into my school, the school that I'm going to attend, which is going to be it's not a very big surprise. I've talked about this before. It's going to be the Warren Alpert University of Brown, the Warren Alpert Medical School of Brown University. So I think it's a lot more about my experiences that also opened the door to such a prestigious school for me. And it also opened the door for a lot of other prestigious schools when it comes to interview invites, like schools that I'm going to show when I'm going to be at the end of this document. So here is just one of my experiences. So it was alpha thalassemia. So I was basically interested in this study because it had a very big biological importance in the African American and basically Afro community. So that's why I decided to participate into the study. You guys can pause the video and read more about how I actually framed this experience, and that was part of my most meaningful experience because it had, as I mentioned earlier, big biological relevance to the African American community. So that was for a total of about 15 hours. So my second experience here was my post-bac in the laboratory of immunoregulation. So basically, I put that in terms of most recent to least recent. Here in this experience, I basically worked in a lab where I studied COVID-19 immunology. So I'm not going to get into much details. If you guys want to get into details, you can read what I wrote there. So and then the hallmark of this experience is I worked with one of the biggest names in the field of immunology and even in the field of infectious disease. So Dr. Anthony Fauci, for those who recognize him. So he was the head of the laboratory of immunoregulation, and I was working in the B-cell immunology unit of this lab. Very happy as an immigrant and coming from nowhere to have been able to work with such a big figure. although I'm going to keep certain like conflict of interest aside here. Um, Another experience that I had is basically basic pre-med stuff like virtual clinical shadowing. So during the pandemic, I picked up this virtual experience, and I think for those of you who think that it doesn't count, it certainly does. So if you don't have the opportunity to shadow in person, I would definitely advise you to pick up like e-shadowing, and we could talk about that, the way it made you grow in your application. So that's still fair game. Another extracurricular that I threw here was like my Saturday's men's open. I'm a very big fan of soccer. So definitely don't think like the AMCAS application is just for pre-med stuff. You can definitely put in your hobbies there. It's also fair game. I had lots of interviewers asking me about my hobbies, and I was very happy to discuss my soccer, my love for soccer with my interviewers. So definitely don't shy away from it. So here is another experience. So I actually worked at Home Depot. So as you can see, I also marked this as most meaningful experience because I had lots of hours, as you can see on the side. So here are the hours that you can put. And notice something here. So you can actually put in multiple entries for the same experience. So I had 3 entries here because I actually worked at different Home Depots and at different dates. So yeah, this was a very big experience, one of my most meaningful experience, because I had a lot of like customer interactions. So I learned a lot by interacting with these customers and serving them. So as compared to like physician shadowing or virtual shadowing, where it's completely passive. So I want to reassure you that your most meaningful experience don't necessarily need to be your common pre-med experiences. Another one that I had here is just a leadership position. So I was actually working as an undergraduate advisor for physics 1 and 2. Basically, when the school transitioned from in-person to online instruction, so I was basically critiquing, me and a group of other students were critiquing how the labs could have been better in an online platform and how it could be more biologically relevant to pre-med students. So that was also a very nice experience that I had. So here's just like basic volunteering at the hospital. I'm not gonna talk too much about that. So those were my hours. Again, just helping patients with like basic needs. Physician shadowing, where I work with a gastroenterologist. So that was also a very fun experience. Again, passive, so not most meaningful for me. Yeah, so that was a volunteering experience that I had when I was in Montgomery College. Again, that was a very nice experience, very different from the experiences that I had like growing up in Africa. So these are certainly things that we were not doing. So again, here is another research lab experience. So that was actually my first research experience. That was at the National Institute of Health. Not this one, but actually the one down here. I actually worked 2 summers at the National Institute of Health. Sorry for like talking about this before, because that was my first experience where I actually worked on the basic mechanism of HIV replication. I'm very interested in HIV research back from Africa, because I'm from a region of Africa that has a lot of HIV cases. So I started working on HIV, the basic mechanism of HIV replication, and I came back the next summer. So you can see some of 2018 and some of 2019. And then the same year of 2018, I picked up another project NIST, where I was working on understanding the living together in simple terms of Pseudomonas and Staphylococcus aureus in the media. That had as well a clinical importance in really understanding what was going on, because those are opportunity pathogens that are present in the mucosa of cystic fibrotic patients. So that's something I picked up the same year I finished my internship at the NIH. So mostly infectious disease related. And you guys are going to see that bulk of my research experience was infectious disease tailored. So I was mostly focused on infectious disease because this was my number 1 choice of specialty. It is still at the top of my list when it comes to specialty, maybe a little bit less than when I was applying to medical school, because I definitely saw that after this year, maybe I might want to consider something different, but I have like a top 3 choice of specialty is in my top 3, definitely. But still I think it's still number 1. I'm still going to be exploring the other two specialties, which are cardiology, interventional cardiology, and GI when I'll be in medical school and decide between the three. So here's just the presentation that I did on HIV-1 and HIV-2. RNA replication, so I'm not going to talk too much about that. I did a bunch of presentations. So again, you can notice here that I put presentations as one experience where I describe all of the presentations I had throughout my college career. And here is a teaching assistant position. Again, that was a very big part of my experience in college because I like teaching. So I did that for quite some time, as you can see, for the hours here, both at the University of Maryland and also at Montgomery College. So I had it two separate. So one at the University of Maryland where I actually taught a class. And then here at the Montgomery College, you see, I did a lot of tutoring at Montgomery College. And some of it was paid, some of it was actual volunteer work. And I also marked it as most meaningful because I felt like I had a very big impact on my students, and particularly like two of the students that I described here, because those were my friends, and I was pretty happy to have such an impact in the academics. So here is again, this is an award section. So feel free to put in the, to have an award section if you have lots of award, and again, feel free to put that as one experience. That's what I did. Those were my awards. Here's my personal statement. So I kind of like marked the first paragraph because there was like too much sensitive information that I didn't want to share. But again, feel free to pause this video to read my personal statement. I'm not going to get into big details here, but I just want to, again, just basically give again as another snapshot of one of my YouTube videos where I talked about what makes a good personal statement, 3 tips on how to write a personal statement. So the first paragraph was basically my seed, why I was interested in going to medical school, and that's because I lost someone that was dear to me. That was my father, that was my uncle, that was my everything. He died at the age of 12, and that really completely changed my life. Probably, I don't know if it's for the best or for the worst, but we're gonna see. But I feel like I'm not turning out bad. So his dad made me interested in medicine. Then I came to the US, and I started shadowing. I started doing a bunch of experiences, and I talked about my experiences tutoring and how it helped me grow as a person, how it made me basically know that I wanted to do medicine. Talking that I like to teach, yeah, but I still felt like medicine was what I wanted. Then I talked about my experience shadowing and how it reassured me, or it reaffirmed to me that I wanted to be a physician based on what I learned. And I also talked about how some of my encounters with patients at the hospital made me realize that there are certain things in the US that are really not meant for, like, for example, there's certain things in the healthcare system that needed to be changed, and how I wanted to contribute to that. I talked about that. Notice that my experiences made me learn a lot of things that I basically, at the last 2 sentences of my paragraph, I talked about how that was important, how it made me see, it affected my point of view, how I wanted to go forward with what I observed during my experiences. And then you can see that in this last, the second to the last paragraph, I talked about my research now and how why I decided to get into this research, what motivated me to do that, where I was going with it. I talked about how I wanted to be a clinician scientist, basically. And basically, you can see that a bunch of my experiences were centered on HIV and infectious disease. And that's what I still want to do. And I want to explore this for the medical school and make a decision probably during my rotations when I explore other specialties. For now, I'm still set with infectious disease. And then basically in my last paragraph, you can see that I went from the seed, which is basically my reason why I was exposed to medicine in the first place, why I wanted to do medicine in the first place. And then in my body, I had multiple paragraphs about the experiences I had, what I learned from it, what I'm planning to do with these experiences, talking about why I decided to do these experiences in the first place, what I learned from it, and why I'm taking these experiences in the future. And then in the conclusion, I basically write all of it together, and basically telling the reader, like based on all of these experiences, where I'm coming from, how I'm going to basically use my experiences as a doctor, as a medical student. So you can definitely read it and how I frame this conclusion. So the conclusion again is up to you to see how you want to frame that. So here, letters of recommendation. I actually had a committee letter. Some people might choose not to have a committee letter and instead have like letter packet. So but I went with a committee letter. And I think if you have the chance, or if you have the chance to get a committee letter, you definitely should get it. So here's just a section about all the schools I applied. So in green are basically the schools that actually offered me an interview and actually accepted me after this interview. Yellow are the schools that offered me an interview, but they didn't end up accepting me after the interview. So, but an exception here is the University of Pittsburgh. They didn't reject me, but I ended up rejecting them because they were taking so long. I was pretty much already happy with my school. The Pan-Africaniste Medical School of Brown University. I'm very excited to be attending this school. So there's not going to be a review video. It's already clear and just very clear that I'm going to attend Brown with a full ride scholarship. So, and then in blue are the schools that basically offered me an interview and I chose not to attend. So you can see here, Harvard Medical School is one of the schools that offered me an interview. I attended the interview, but ended up not getting accepted. So that was a very big disappointment because I thought that I was very close to getting into this school that for reasons that are specific to me, mostly because I intend to be a physician politician, but I'm going to discuss more about this side of my future career in future videos. So yeah, so that's pretty much it. I really hope that you guys enjoyed diving into my 2021-2022 AMCAS application. So stay tuned for more content, and I hope you guys enjoyed what you saw.